As protests erupt in the country, Slovakia's Prime Minister accused opposition of attempting to organise a coup.
The leader of Germany's Christian Democratic Union, Friedrich Merz, vowed to crack down on illegal immigration if he is elected as Chancellor next month.
A mass bomb scare has caused hundreds of schools to shut in Hungary this Thursday.
Slovakian Prime Minister Robert Fico accused opposition of attempting to organise a coup amid escalating demonstrations against his supposed pro-Moscow stance. During his address to the Slovakian parliament, Fico also rejected claims about the country's alleged change of foreign policy orientation and reaffirmed membership of both the European Union and NATO.
Vidíme štruktúru, ktorá chce zneužiť tieto stretnutia a tieto mítingy, predovšetkým na možný stret s bezpečnostnými zložkami štátu, aby ešte viacej sa eskalovalo napätie, aby ešte viac dochádzalo k agresivite.
Fico's comments come as protests continue to erupt in Slovakia over his ties to Russia. These protests started last December after he met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow. Fico has also faced accusations by the country's largest opposition party of trying to take the country out of the EU. Earlier this week, surviving an attempt at a no-confidence vote.
The leader of Germany's Christian Democratic Union, Friedrich Merz, vowed to crack down on illegal immigration if he is elected as Chancellor next month. The opposition party leader said he would bar people from entering the country without proper papers and that he would increase deportations. His statement comes just a day after 2 people were killed and 3 injured in an attack in Bavaria.
Ich weigere mich anzuerkennen, dass die Taten von Mannheim, Solingen, Magdeburg und jetzt Aschaffenburg die neue Normalität in Deutschland sein sollen. Das Maß ist endgültig voll. Wir stehen vor dem Scherbenhaufen einer in Deutschland seit 10 Jahren fehlgeleiteten Asyl- und Einwanderungspolitik.
The attack comes at a politically sensitive moment with Germany's national election to be held on February 23rd. Support for Chancellor Olaf Scholz's Social Democrats, the Greens and the Liberal Free Democrats has declined. Meanwhile, opinion polls show that support has increased for opposition parties Christian Democratic Union and far-right Alternative for Germany.
More than 260 schools in Hungary received bomb threats on Thursday morning, said the National Police. A message sent out to the official email address of the institution said a device had been planted in the buildings to avenge insults to Muslims. The letters were identical and were read out at a government press conference later on.
Itt az ideje, hogy áldott műveleteinket kiterjesszük Európa szívére, a hitetlenség és képmutatás bástyájára. Tanúi voltunk kormányaitok folyamatos háborújának a muszlimok ellen, és igazságos lenne, ha most megtapasztalnátok az elnyomottak haragját. Mostantól az önbiztonsága már nem garantált. Tudassátok vezetőitekkel és Európa népeivel, hogy a kalifátus oroszlányai városaitokat veszik célba.
The affected schools have been evacuated. It is not yet known when classes will resume.
Az óbudai Harrer Pál általános iskola az egyik olyan intézmény, amit érintett a bombariadó. A gyerekeket mind elvitték az épületből, de a táskáikat itt kellett hagyniuk. Azokat tűzszerészek vizsgálják át az épülettel együtt.
In parts of Budapest, students waited for their parents in municipal buildings. The principal of one high school said the pupils had mixed feelings about the bomb scare.
Egyik része örült neki, másik része pedig hát majd megfagyott, mert sokan megijedtek, mert hogy azért, hogy bombariadó, azért nem minden nap fordul elő, hála Istennek.
There were similar mass bomb threats in Bulgarian schools on Wednesday and in Slovak and Czech schools last autumn. The head of the Czech Secret Service said in November that Russia was to blame.
Romanian potato farmers are struggling with rising costs and labor shortages. This has caused a years-long decline in the country's potato production. Farmers say labor is increasingly expensive and hard to find. In 2024, Romania saw its lowest harvest of potatoes in 8 years, despite accounting for almost a third of Europe's potato farms. And while production is at a historic low, demand continues to grow, driving increased imports, which is reflected in prices.
S-a terminat cu vânzările. Foarte slab. S-a scumpit. Înainte luam cu 2 lei, 2 lei 50, acum e 3, 3 jumate. Depinde fiecare cât are de mult.
To keep up with demand, Romania imports potatoes mostly from Poland. But Poland's production has also been in decline in recent years, which could pose further problems for Romania's shortage in the future.
NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte urged Ukraine's Western allies to enhance their support towards Kyiv and backed US President Donald Trump's push for increasing the defense budget. Europe's defense budget is currently on average 2%. Rutte agreed with Trump and said there should be much more. Speaking at the World Economic Forum's annual meeting in Davos, he added that the European defense industry is innovating too slowly and that the focus should be on establishing an industrial base.
It has to be much more. I think Donald Trump is right here that we are spending not enough, and anyway we have to get it into a balance with what the US is spending. But particularly here we have to look out for the industry base. So what our defense industry is producing, and they are not producing enough, but also in terms of innovation, we are too slow in innovating.
The NATO chief also warned that a Russian victory over Ukraine would damage the alliance's credibility and that it could potentially cost trillions to restore. Speaking on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said a minimum of 200,000 troops are required to ensure Ukraine's security in the case of a ceasefire with Russia.
As Palestinians return to their homes in Gaza under the terms of a long-awaited ceasefire deal, Israeli armoured vehicles were seen in the city of Jenin in the occupied West Bank. A major Israeli military operation has been launched in the area, and suspected Israeli settlers have torn through 2 Palestinian towns. Israeli forces killed 2 Palestinian militants who reportedly carried out a deadly attack on a bus in the West Bank earlier this month. At least 9 others were reported killed earlier in the week, including a 16-year-old child. The violence comes as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu faces domestic pressure from his far-right allies after agreeing to the truce and hostage prisoner exchange with the Hamas militant group. Palestinians view such operations and the expansion of settlements as ways of cementing Israeli control over their territory, where 3 million Palestinians live under seemingly open-ended Israeli military rule.
South Korean investigators have asked prosecutors to indict the impeached president Yoon Suk-yeol, accusing him of rebellion, abuse of power, and obstruction of parliament. The Corruption Investigation Office has been leading a probe into Yoon with police and military authorities and detained him last week. They said Yoon staged a riot seeking to undermine the constitution when he declared martial law in December. At the same time, Yoon and his former defense minister appeared at a hearing on Thursday at a separate trial on his impeachment. Yoon has insisted that his actions were not intended to undermine parliament, but as a warning to break political deadlock. His team claims that Yoon's detention and the criminal investigation are illegal.
Saudi Arabia's crown prince said that the kingdom wants to invest $600 billion in the United States over the next 4 years, and potentially beyond that. The remarks from Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman came after a phone call with recently inaugurated US President Donald Trump, and after Trump mused about returning to Saudi Arabia as his first foreign trip back in office. There was no immediate response from the White House regarding the call. It also wasn't clear whether Trump's call with the Crown Prince was his first with a foreign leader since returning to the Oval Office. The billion-dollar pledge, which dwarfs the gross domestic product of many nations, comes as the kingdom faces budgetary pressures of its own. Global oil prices remain depressed years after the height of the coronavirus pandemic, affecting the kingdom's revenues. In recent years, the US has increasingly pulled away from relying on Saudi oil exports, which was once the bedrock of their relationship for decades.
We love equally, legally, and we can build our family in our own ways, because I believe that every kind of love, every kind of family is as beautiful as it is, and we are now allowed to build our own kind of family with the support of the law.